Hi everybody, thank you for being such an incredible community, and I hope you're all staying really healthy under this current health scare. But let's get on to some good things. We wanted to give you a free course on producing and recording drums by Mr. Matt Starr. Matt is the current drummer with Frehley. He's played with Mr. Big on tour for a long time. He's also an amazing session drummer who does a lot of work for not just me, but tons of other producers and engineers all over Los Angeles and everywhere else in the world. So this is a free course that will stream, and you can download all of the files for free. That's right, you can download them all for free and follow along with the course. So I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay happy. Thank you for being an incredible part of this amazing community. I feel so blessed to be a part of it. Enjoy the course, and please leave a bunch of comments and questions below. Have a marvelous time. Stay well, feel great, and I hope to speak to you all again very soon.
Hey guys, it's Matt Starr for ProMix Academy, and we are here at Doghouse Studio. You're going to spend the day with me in the studio tracking drums on a song. You have the unenviable position of being in my head, but it's only for a day, so don't get stressed. We're going to check out everything. Okay, so you're going to be with me as I sit and hear the song for the first time. My process creatively, making choices, where I'm getting inspiration from, what I'm thinking about. We'll also talk about the drum setup. We're going to talk about the mics, how we get the sounds, mic choice, mic pre's, mic cables, all that stuff. And that's it. All right, so we're going to check out the kit. I have a bunch of different kits. Some of them are vintage, some of them are new. They're all Ludwig's, and this particular kit is a new legacy kit. So it's the same design as the kits they made in the 70s. So it's 3-ply maple with the reinforcement rings. We will start with the kick drum. Okay, the kick drum is a 26. So to some people that's really exciting, to some people that's really scary. What I found is it's a very different experience playing it, but there's a really wide range of sounds that you can get, and you can always dial it back and tighten it up, but you can't get the big boom and the Bonham thing, for lack of a better term, using a smaller kick. So this kick is 14 inches deep. That for me is perfect. It gets the low end out faster, and it keeps the sound really clean. So you get the punch, but then the low end dissipates. So it's not a long kind of thing like this. It's more open, which I like. Big open sounds. And again, we can always dial them back, but you can't get them more open if they're tight sounding to begin with. 26 by 14, it's wide open. There's nothing in there. To me, this is a drum. It's not a hamper. So over the last maybe 20 years, drum sounds have evolved a bit, and the kick drum has kind of been relegated to this low end 80 hertz, 100 hertz thing, and then a little bit of snap, and then the rest of the tune gets crowded in around it. If that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. But for me, as a drummer, I like drums to sound like drums. Something I realized actually more recently is when I think of drums, I think of cartoon drums, like from the old cartoons, and some guys falling down the stairs, and you go, rap, bop, boo, bop, bop, boom. That's what drums sound like in my head. So that's a natural sounding drum kit, nice and wide open. That's the kick. My rack tom today is a 14 inch, 14 wide, 10 deep, same shell construction. The floor tom is a 16 and an 18. So here's the deal. If you notice, the floor toms are deep, right? So this drum is 16 inches wide by 16 inches long. For some reason, that's not conducive to a sound that dissipates quickly. The 16 by 16 tends to just kind of ring forever. So that's something that needs to be managed. So these floor toms, as the kit kind of got put together in the last century, it started out with bass drums, right? We had that from Europe, and then guys would go overseas and come back with a tom drum, right? But it was more like from the Eastern countries, and they'd have the tacks in them, and it'd be calf skin around some sort of like wooden shell. So that evolved into this. So this is basically the same size relationship as a kick drum, but the floor tom is, again, 16 deep. So, well, why don't we have just toms all around? I don't know. These are originally Turkish drums. They sat on a horse. They were used for war. I like that aspect of it. But they were long, so that's so that they could sit on the sides of the horse, and then, you know, the guy could ride them, hit him. Okay, so that was a logistical thing that made sense to them in that situation. But now we deal with that in the kit and in a recording studio and in a much more under the microscope scenario. So always a challenge to get this drum, which is 14 wide by 10 deep, to match these two drums, which is, you know, 16 by 16. Okay, and the floor tom is 18 by 16. The floor tom always sounds more open to me and never has that ring where it has to ring a little bit too long. So what do you do if the drums are ringing a little bit too much? One thing you can do, and we actually did this here today, is because I play Ludwigs and they're big, beautiful, open, resonant drums. It was ringing, this one was ringing a little more than we wanted. So what I did is took the floor tom leg, one of them, and flipped it so that it's metal going into the rug rather than the rubber feet. And that just deadened it enough for us. Okay, so here's the relationship between them all. So here's the rack, floor. Okay, so you can hear this, just hit them softly. Boom, boom, boom. It's a tuning thing in there, and you know, some guys tune it to the track. I leave that up to the producer if they want to do that, but my drums are always in tune with themselves, and then, you know, you can tweak it one way or the other. But the challenge here again is to just get the drums, the resonance and the general tone to sound all the same. Okay, and again, it would be way easier if they were all just toms. So we'll work on that. I'm going to talk to Ludwig, see what we can do. You know, as far as the heads I have on these, I play Evans heads, and these are 2-ply coated heads. So these are their G2s on the top, and on the bottom is a G1. So I tend to like coated heads. They sound warmer. They sound fatter. These are like kind of generic terms, but they're accurate, I think. And they also muffle the drum a little bit. That white coating that's on here muffles the drum a little bit, and the 2 plies that are on the top, those kind of muffle each other out a little bit too. And I find if you can make a head choice or do something organically that controls the amount of resonance and gets it to where you want it, that's better than putting a thing or doing another thing, unless you're doing something drastic, like if you're going for a Ringo thing and you're going to put, you know, a tea towel or a t-shirt or something over the snare and you're going for a really specific thing. I like, again, things to sound open and natural, even if they're less open and natural than they naturally are. It's like, how do we arrive at that place? Okay, so I'm happy where all these drums are sitting right now. One thing that's great, you can pan over here, or actually I'll pick it up. I got a couple doodads. So these are drum tacks. I love these things. It's a great way to muffle the drum. It's actually a great way to control the resonance, but without really killing the tone of the drum. Okay, sometimes you want to kill some of the tone of the drum, and that's okay too. But these are great, and various companies make these things, but these are super easy, they're reusable, and they're awesome. These little dudes are called tuner fish, and especially for live, but man, in the studio, I hit hard, and the last thing I want to be thinking about is my snare drum slipping. They look like this, and you put them on top of the drum. You can see I got them all around this snare drum here. They sit on and they don't budge, right? They don't budge. So they come right off to change the tuning. They're killer. You get about probably 6 or 7 different positions, so you don't have to really change the tuning if you want them to sit right. These things have been a godsend, again, especially for live, but also for studio, man. I mean, if you're doing, say you're doing 3 takes of a tune, and it's like, oh, that's great. All right, so let's take the bridge from this take and then drop it into the first take, and all of a sudden the snare drops by a half step, or just kind of like a weird little ring to it. So keeping things in place physically and also sonically, tuning-wise in place has really been a challenge for me. This is the only thing that has ever worked, ever. Okay, so I also bring to the session with me a package of felts. I like my cymbals to be fairly tight, Like you can see this one, I mean, there's a little bit of play here, right? But I don't want them like whooshing around, because if I hit the cymbal and then I go to hit it again, I want it to be there and not be here, and then I have to make some sort of calculation. So I bring extra felts with me as well. Okay, so that covers the toms. The snare drum, we're gonna try some different snares today, but the one I have up right now is this beautiful Ludwig 6.5 chrome over brass with the brass hardware and the die cast tubes. And so this drum is similar to the Black Beauty. It's got a more focused sound. The Black Beauty is a classic snare drum that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. That is more of a, has some, what I call like some funk and some dirt on it. Like it's got salt on it, you know, it's kind of got a little, just got a little funkiness to it. This is a cleaner sounding drum, so consequently if I go down lower, it's still very clear, doesn't get muddy, and if I crank it way up, it's super clear and super crisp. I typically don't like clean sounding drums, so where I have this now, it's kind of a low fat. Kind of thing, right? For the head choice, I have this Evans 360 heavyweight snare head. Again, this is for effect, but generally speaking, I just run these heads on top of my drums. It's got a ring, it's 2 plies coated, and then it's got a ring underneath, but it's not a solid ring. If you kind of come over here, you can see there's like little spaces where the sound can get out, so it's covering it. And so without the ring, this particular drum sounds like that, and it could use a little tuning. So, but with this on it, which these are these rings, you know, they call them Ritchie rings. Evans makes these pre-cut, which I like that I don't have to cut them myself. And it sounds like this again. You know, so in context, okay, what else do we have here? We have my pedal. We can get into that. I keep my pedal really loose. This is a DW 5000 I've had forever. You can see it's like, there's not a lot going on here. It's pretty loose. I like it like that. I don't like to work very hard, and I find that as with our muscles, when you're hitting the drum, if there's anything that's firing and getting in the way, that's gonna make you have to work harder. And it's the same thing with the pedal. So a lot of guys that sit in on my kit say, man, your pedal's so loose. But for me, when I sit on guys' kits and the pedal's tight, I can't just throw that beater into it. You know, with this, when it's loose, I just give it a little shove and the thing just goes flying. And I also have a weight on the top of this pedal here. And this is extended out fairly long, but not exceptionally far out, but plastic side, and then you got this weight. So there's just a lot of thwack coming at that drum. I want to clear up something else that gets asked a lot is, okay, if you have a 26-inch kick drum, how do you hit the drum in the middle? I don't know about you, but I don't hit any drums in the middle. Never have. So this snare, you can see this head's a little worn. I hit just above the center. Okay, toms, that one's pretty close to the middle. This one, again, just a little off center. So we typically don't hit drums in the middle. I think a 22, somewhere between a 20 and a 22 is where you actually hit it in the middle. There's kind of a dead spot there. For me, on most drums, you get a sweet spot a little bit off the center. So if it's a little bit below the center, like it is with a bigger kick drum, that's fine. So don't sweat that, you know what I mean? Just set the thing up, get comfortable, and hit it and see what you think. Not big on theories, you know? Some of them prove to be accurate and some of them don't. And in the time it takes you to consider that, you could have already tried it and found out for yourself. Okay, so cymbals. Peisty 2002s, you know, for rock, there's really nothing better. This is a 20-inch power crash here. This is a 20-inch crash here. This is a 22-inch crash here. So I have rides, but I typically don't play ride a whole lot, you know, and more in modern music, there's less and less of that as well. So you don't get, you know, kind of that classic Boston, you know, like More Than a Feeling, the sound with the acoustic guitar and the ride doing that nice blend. It's not really that common. So I have this. I have a bunch of other ones that I use depending on the session, but if I bring my 2002s, you know, engineers and producers are always usually very happy. And there's like this little extra jing up top, you know, that the other cymbals don't have, and especially for rock, it's really nice because they cut. And again, so the thing with recording is doing it at the source, you know. So you want big drums, you want a big drum sound, get big drums, you know. You want a big drum sound, you got big drums, okay, cool. Tune them big, tune them open, play them open. They're gonna have a much better chance of getting that on the other end than trying to do it later, you know what I mean? So same thing with the cymbals. It's like just the natural EQ of the cymbals just sits great with electric guitars. And I have a 22-inch 2002 China. And my thought on that is, the 20-inch Chinas are cool, but they're still a little like pangy, and I like it to just be big and open and trashy. So once you get to that 22-inch threshold, it opens up so you can, sounds like that. So it kind of has like a crash thing. Okay, so there we are. As far as sitting height, I try and keep my hip a little bit above my knee. If my hip is below my knee, then just to hit that bass drum, I have to lift my entire leg, and gravity is against me. So just like that. And on some things I might sit a little bit more like that, but if I really want to play hard, they're pretty close, but the hip is a little bit higher than my knee. Microphone choices. So we got some cool stuff happening here. Start with the overheads. These are 414s. Nothing new. Like if you read any engineering magazines or you see interviews of producers or engineers, you know, what'd you guys use to get that drum sound? You're gonna start to see a lot of the same patterns. So try different things and check it out, but use your own judgment as well, because there are no rules. There's things that typically work well, but you know, you could make a great record with a bunch of 58s, you know. So overheads are 414s. They're in cardioid, I believe, so they're not picking up any information behind them or around them. They're just whatever they're looking down at is what they're getting, okay? Toms are 412s. Is that right?
421. Thank
you. I had the numbers right, just needed to read. So Sennheiser 421s, these have been around forever. They just got a really nice thick low mid thing going on, but it's not exaggerated. And they sound very, to my ears, real. Now what sounds real and natural may not be at all, right? So, you know, to tubes we think sound natural, and, you know, certain EQ curves sound natural. They may not be natural, but they sound natural. So again, those words are subjective. And so these microphones, to me, sound really natural, for whatever that's worth. Okay, so on the snare, if you want to come over here, we have a, I believe it's a Neumann 81, and then a Shure 57. So, which again, Shure 57s on guitar cabs and snares, you're gonna hear that coming up over and over and over again. They're taped together so that the diaphragms of these two mics line up. Because if they're not, then the sound hits them at different times, even though it's, you know, almost imperceptible. But sonically, on a drum kit, you have so many mics, you have so many points of perspective, so there's always gonna be some sort of phase thing going on, and it's just a trade-off. Again, if you have one mic, no phase issues. 2, potential phase issues. 3, more potential. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, you're gonna have them. So it's a trade-off, you know, it's a trade-off. So, but that's why these are taped together. And so the sound is going to hit these two at the same time. Underneath, we have another 81. And when you're on the bottom there, you got to flip the phase. So I'm sure you already know that. And then we got an AKG 451B on the hi-hat. And behind me is this funky little, I think it's an EV. Yeah, a 635A. So these were in airplanes for the PA systems back in the 70s. And they stopped using these, and a lot of audio engineers bought these up, and it became a thing. And so they have one here, and it's funky. And as the engineer said to me, it does not sound good, which is why we like it. So that's giving you that funky character. You can run this mic through a compressor and crush it. And what do we have for the rooms? You can see what's going on over here. So we have the Royer ribbon up here, and that's getting, it's this 121. So that's just getting that ribbon sound there. And then they got a pair of Earthworks facing away from the kit, which might be counterintuitive, but sometimes what'll happen is if you're at the kit, it's too bright. And so if you guys are recording on your own, at your own studio, that's a great opportunity to mess around. You know, you're gonna cut 5 tracks in a day, cool. But the client's not there, so you got time to mess around, and then that sounded cool. How about tomorrow, let me move this way, let me move this that way. So you get to try stuff, you know what I mean? So find out information from people who are further along from you and get that information, but also just try anything, because there really are no rules. And so many things that have become standard started out as an accident, you know? So I've seen where the room mics are on the floor, you know, catching more of the low end. Again, turned away, so you're getting like a not as bright of a picture, and you're also getting a little more dimension. So a lot of different options. I think that pretty much covers it in my world. Oh, cool thing. So for you Bonham freaks, we have this. So this is a 58, and it's pretty much aimed right at where the beater hits the head. Okay, and again, you're gonna flip this mic out of phase with the front mic, which you want to do anytime you have 2 mics pointing at each other. One of them needs to get flipped. So this is getting the batter side of the kick. This is getting the beater hitting the head, but it's a much different thing than the inside of the kick, because when you're inside, again, you get this thing going on because it's resonating and bouncing off of the inside of the drum. This is more open. Now you're gonna have to contend with snare bleeding into it, but you can deal with that, you know, depending on what the song is, and there's a lot of different ways to handle that. But this gets a really natural sound, and if you want to do the Bonham thing, it's cool, but it's also just a very natural sound and a great way to get attack without it having to be that clicky EQ boost, like that 5K boost, you know, that is like, can be so, that you'll hear on records. And it slices through the guitar, and again, it naturally on its own claims its space in the mix, and so you don't have to go twisting knobs and doing all kinds of stuff to get it to sit right. It just says, hey, this is where I'm at, I'm just gonna sit right here. So I just want to give you a breakdown of the kick mics that we have going on. So again, we have a 58 pointed at the batter side, okay, with the phase flipped. Then on the inside, we have a Beta 52. Those are both short. So we have a Beta 52 just on the inside a little bit. And then on the outside, we have a Neumann 87. Okay, and a little off axis to kind of cut some of the low end. So we're gonna try mic number 1 first, which is the 58. So this is what this sounds like. Okay, so now we're gonna try mic number 2, which is the 52 that's inside the kick a little bit. Okay, and now we're gonna try the third one, which is the 87 outside, getting getting a little bit of distance and a little bit of the perspective of the drum from the listener position. Okay, and now we're gonna try all of them together, and this is what you got. So again, there's a lot of possibilities in there. There's a lot of options, and depending on the song, depending on the mix, depending on the part of the song, you can make those determinations for yourself. But just wanted to show that. And again, just you don't just sticking a pillow in there and then a D112. I mean, that will work, but there's a lot of other opportunities there, and that can really be a real character adder to your mix. And especially for you drummers, if you're creating drum tracks and sending them to people, just building that stuff in there from the ground up. It's built in, and so then you can put more of a signature on it, which is always important. All right, so now we're in the control room, and this is where they talk about you in between takes when they go, no, we're just fixing something. No, they're talking about you. So let's look at, here's the usual suspects. We have most of it by BAE Audio. We got Neve and API, and that's kind of, again, there's no rules, and stuff isn't the least expensive stuff on the market, but it's kind of where everybody ends up. So let's check out the kick. Again, just the usual stuff. So you got a high pass filter cutting off at 50 to just get rid of that low end gurgle rumble that you are going to get rid of anyway. So we got shelving. So we got a shelving cut happening at 10K and a shelving boost happening at 60 hertz, right? So again, just, kind of the inside of that drum, that 26 can be really clicky and bright. So just to kind of dial it back and set it in range. Okay, and then the 87 that's outside, again, we got a high pass filter cutting off at 50 hertz, and we have a pretty substantial cut happening at 700, and that's it. So just cutting out that middle honky boxy stuff that's just not musical, and the guitars, if anything, will live in there as well. So and then the 58, that's just coming right in. There's no EQ on that. So that's the mic that's on the batter side. Okay, toms, they are coming into this universal audio, and this is the Twinfinity pre, so it's either solid state or tube, and he's got it all the way over on tube. And then again, the EQ that's happening, if you want to just come over and just generally look at this, I mean, these are these API 550As. You can just see by these gray knobs, it's like the lows boosted, the mids cut, the top boosted, right? So what's happening? Boosting at 200, at 100 for the next tom, and then at 100 also for the third tom. Cutting pretty, 6 and 4 dB at 800, which again is that stuff like this that nobody wants to hear, and then a little boost at 12K. So just to kind of open them up a little bit. And then we got the rooms, again going through the Neve 1073, and a cut at 80, shelving, right? We got nothing there, and a little cut at 3.2. So that's the mids, like, the snare can get kind of gnarly, the cymbals can get kind of gnarly in those mid ranges, upper mids. And then on the rooms, there's a little bit of a cut. Again, I think this is set shelving at 12K. So again, just kind of softening those rooms. And this isn't a very big room, so it's probably bigger than a lot of the rooms that you guys may be doing if you have home studios. But it's not so big that the reflections don't have time to just dissipate on their own. So cutting those top reflections, that'll help with your phase issues later. For the overheads, what are we doing over here? Nothing. Nope, just running them through. So there you go. That's nice when that happens. And then the center room, which is the Royer, the ribbon, it's coming into this Manly pre, and then you want to come over here to the sexy stuff, the distressor where the rooms are, and they're getting pulled back like 6 to 8 dB, so they're not getting clobbered. I know when I first got into this, I got an 1176 and I just crushed everything. And it was awesome, but ultimately, you kind of settle in somewhere. But again, all this gear, the reason that you keep hearing Neve and API, it adds character. It adds character, and it makes it again sound natural, which is not natural. I think actually a simple mic through a really clean pre to a digital recording source is natural. And when we heard that, we said, "Oh, geez, we got to put something on that, you know." So you're gonna get I call it salt or dirt. You know, you just want to get some grit on there, a little distortion maybe. Starts building harmonic overtones, and that's like what we want a lot of times. It sounds musical to our ears. But again, it's not natural. It's actually quite unnatural, but it sounds natural. So that's where, if you're a musician and you're engineering and producing, you're also being musical. Even the engineering, which seems like it's just a technical thing, it's musical. Everyone's adding to the musical pot, which is another pitch for working with people. You know, like sitting in your room and creating something is great, but get other people involved, get their input, get their feedback, get their skills and their talents, get it all in there, because that's what starts to grow. And all your favorite records were done that way. So the center room, which is that ribbon mic, is going through this Purple Audio, which is an 1176. And you can see the attack and the release. It's pretty wide open, right? And it's at 4.1. So it's like, it's pretty chill. It's pretty chill, but it's keeping things in line, and it's just containing things a little bit. And that's it. So that's what's happening in here. So basically nothing like mind-shattering, you know what I mean? If you've been doing this for any length of time, you're familiar with most of this gear, and you're familiar with most of the techniques. Again, it's cutting the mids and boosting the low and top. But something that might be different for you is cutting the top and using high and low pass filters. What you'll find is the more you record and the more you do mixes, for you guys who are engineers, or if you're engineers and drummers, for drummers, it's really important when you hand somebody a track, you go, "Here's my tracks." You want to give it to them sounding as close to a record as possible. So if you know from your experience, okay, we're just going to dump everything below, 50 or 30 on the kick drum, or the rooms, we always end up cutting everything below 50. Then just do that on the way in. So when they get it and they pull it up, it's like, wow, this sounds great, right out of the gate. And that's something that comes with experience. But cutting rather than boosting is always the first choice, because it's amazing. You'll find the frequencies that are sounding weird, and then it's like, okay, let's pull that out, and all of a sudden the whole thing opens up, and you may not need to boost after that. You may, but you may not. So cutting is always the first thing to do. And that's it. It's not rocket science. It's very kind of simple and direct. Get the best gear you can afford, and then once you're in that gear buying phase, that's awesome. Freak out, ask tons of questions, go on the forums, read all the magazines, do all the research. But once you've bought your gear, okay, now I'm going to be the musician, and that's two different sides of the brain. That can be a challenge, and eventually you'll get to a point where you'll have guys engineer for you and then just allow you to do the music part of it. And that's a great thing. And then you start realizing why people have engineers and producers and mix engineers and managers and businessmen. You start going, oh, right, because it's a lot to do, But I think for drummers and any musician really, if you learn the basic techniques of recording and the basic principles, you're going to be a greater asset in the studio, because you know what they're trying to do and what they're looking for, and just sonically what sounds better and what doesn't. If you have a lot of information and knowledge, that doesn't mean you should share it on the session. If you're hired as the drummer, then just be the drummer. But if you have an opportunity like this to share it, go ahead. All right, so now we're going to check out the tune. It's an artist named Alex Calise, and this song is called Say It Loud. Okay, so I'm going to listen to it, and I'm just going to talk and let you know my thoughts as we go through it. And you listen to it too, and what would you think, And so we're going to listen to it with drums. And so if there is drums, even if they're scratch drums, I want to hear it for the first time with the drums, just so I can hear what the artist or the producer or whoever is involved in it did, because maybe it might be an integral thing. I want to know where they're coming from. And also too, you never know, they might come up with something that you would never think of, and you go, oh, that's cool, all right, let's just do that, So they kind of answer some questions for you right out of the gate. Okay. So like already I'm thinking, okay, so that's like an indie kind of vibe, like a little White Stripes, little sassy thing. So, okay, maybe I'm hearing kick drum over that, or do I just want to let that riff happen on its own? So I got two options right there, you know. So more of a singer-songwriter thing, you'd let the riff happen, but a band would probably have the kick drum come in at some point. So, all right, let's back up and listen to that again. So I can hear a cowbell in here. I'd like to hear it just boom, bap, to leave myself somewhere to go. I'd like a little slam to set that up. You know, to just give that a lift. This is obviously a drum machine track, so it just kind of plays through. The hi-hat opened up, but I want a little bit more of a dramatic shift. So already I'm thinking, how can I bring that first verse down as far as we can go? Do we do nothing? Or, you know, or down, 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 down. She starts singing, da 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 da, ba da 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 da, da da da, down, 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 do 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 do. And then I wait to come in for the pre-chorus. That's an option. So again, how far can I bring this down? How much can I take away and have it still work? Because it's really about the vocal and the melody, and I want to support that. Okay, so let's move forward. We're going into the first pre-chorus now. Punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes of display. So already the kick's going boom ba boom boom ba, right? But she's got a melody that goes boom ba da 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 da. She's boom boom hitting that up. So maybe I want to acknowledge her vocal rather than just playing straight through it. Or that gives me an option. You know what I mean? I'm always about the voice. Always about the voice, because that's really the most important thing. Unless you're talking to the guitar player, then it's obviously the guitar. Punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Or even in the middle, boom, 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 right? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. That's the break, right? So, okay. So, drum fill, right? Or break or nothing. I mean, to me, the coolest thing, if you can just go boom, boom, bat. A flam is just so badass, and it sounds great because there's nothing else around it. So again, I'm a minimalist, but there's a break there and it needs something, right? So that's an opportunity. And what I'm going to see is, does this happen again in the second verse? Does that set me up the same, or second chorus? And then there's the third, I'm assuming there's a bridge or a solo. The third chorus, does it do that again? Because if it does, I'm going to do something simple, a little more involved, with some sort of theme that I'm building on or referencing. Okay? And if the song started with drums, if everybody comes in together, this is a little drummer to drummer thing. If everybody comes in together, put a fill at the top. Unless they say don't, like everyone just starts playing, not this song isn't like that, but if everyone just starts playing, do a fill. If no one says anything, you started the song, and it enables you to put a lick down and then repeat it as a theme throughout the song, because you want your drums to evolve and be a hook as well as the lyrics and the melody and the guitar and all that other stuff. So like as an example, Give Me a Feelin', which was on Space Invader, previous Ace Frehley record, that song starts with this digga boom, right? Now that's because that first fill before the chorus I go digga you give me a feeling, and then the next one I do the same thing and it builds. So I was like, well, why don't I'm doing that digga bat thing, why don't I do that at the top, because we're all starting together. So I went, okay, 1, 2, digga bat, boom, like that's kind of lame. How about digga bat? And like that's kind of weird. But if I go digga bat, boom, I'm like, oh, cool. And if you take away all of the drums and you just do the notes, it's da 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 da. So repetition. I'm all about creating a pocket and a groove within the song, but also within my part. So even that intro fill, it sounds like booga booga booga, but it's just again, right out of the gate. I've done the same thing 3 times in a row. So again, how little work can I do? And that's not from a place of being lazy. It's from how simple can I keep this and create within that context that I've established, and yet have it be a hook, have it be something that's going to draw people in and be exciting and be memorable. And really, when you ever drive in traffic and you see some guy in a car and he's like boom, 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 boom. Like that's what I want my drum parts. That guy who knows nothing about music except that he likes it can drive home from work and go boom, 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 boom. You know, In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins, one of the best ever. My mom could eardrum to that. You know, so it's just about connecting with people and supporting the song. So that's a lot, but all that, I'm not thinking all that as I'm listening to this song, you know, but I'm giving you where the stuff is coming from rather than just where it's ending up. So now we're going to set up this first chorus. So again, I got a break. I got to think a 1 measure break. So I'm going to do something. We can go to the crash for this, or open hi-hat. I like the kick pattern, but there's other ones I can work with. Okay, so it's like a post-chorus, or this is maybe the chorus. The other thing that double time is a little too laborious for me. Okay, so, and if I listen to this, I would just sit there and be quiet and listen to it and then go, okay, but these are all the thoughts that are going. So I wouldn't be stopping and doing all this stuff. That, hey, yeah, but that's cool, but that's a lot of double time right out of the gate. And it's kind of like locking it into this, and it's the same part 4 times in a row. So what I'm instinctively thinking is I like that hey, you kind of thing. So maybe you go bop, 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 say it loud, bop, 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 da dun down, bop, 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 bop. But so now I'm breaking it up, you know what I mean? But I'm getting that impact. Or hey, you, say it loud, hey, you, say it loud, say it. Hey, you know, we can go either way with that. But again, for me, that's too much of that same quarter note stomp. But obviously this is like, thus far, this is the max intensity that you're gonna have in the song. So keep that in mind. And we got a little break here. So again, I'm gonna try to not play there. Boom, and come in. We'll see how that goes. And if the producer was here, then he or she would give me feedback on that idea. Because they might go, no, it's got to keep going. I'm gonna add something. You know, that's another thing too. I always ask is this the final mix? Like, am I the last guy to play on this thing, or am I the first and everything else is a demo? Because they might have some guitar tone that sounds like stoner rock, fuzz face, and you go, okay, cool, so I'm thinking this kind of drum tone and this kind of performance approach. And they're like, no, we're going to totally redo it, and it's going to be acoustic. But I had at the time when I wrote it was a pod with a distortion channel. You know what I mean? So ask, is this what I'm listening to? Which parts of this is going to get redone, and which parts are you guys keeping? That's important. Don't pass over me. I'm quite a good read, so don't you judge this book. Another option is a tom thing. That beat's gotten used a lot. I mean, in the last 15 years. But it's effective because it keeps the snare on the 1, 2. It's on the 2, right? So you get 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. And. So it keeps the momentum moving forward, puts that snare on too, so you're like, okay, cool, and then those doom-ba, oom-ba have that kind of self-propelling thing to it. But there's a lot of ways to, a lot of times like, okay, you know, you're doing this, and they're like, can you do something different? And you're like, okay. It's like, no, not that. That's different, but not, a lot of times it's just they want that feeling that they're getting from, but they just want it to be different. So, you know what I mean? It's like just giving them what they're liking about it, and then just changing it a little bit. Usually changes are very, very subtle, unless they're like go crazy or, you know, just do something totally off the wall. So, but that's what could happen in the second verse.
Don't pass over me, I'm quite a good read, so don't you judge this book by its cover. Miscalculate me, I'll make you believe I may be sweet, I sure ain't a sucker.
So again, here we come into that pre-chorus, and this has a like a, it reminds me of a Shania Twain song. And one thing I would say is if you get thoughts like that, typically don't share them with the artist. Don't, like, because most people have an aversion to certain things, especially artists. So if you say, you know, oh, that sounds like Shania Twain, I mean, they might go, that's great, I love Shania. They might go, oh my God, my mom listens to Shania Twain. You know, so don't reference artists. I'm just talking to you because I have a bank of songs in my head, everything from, you know, Tutti Frutti to, you know, Dead Weather. So I'm referencing and going, well, what, it kind of reminds me of this. What'd they do there? And it's just, all that stuff is just cycling through my head as I'm listening to it. But it's got this down, 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 down. That Shania Twain, which is actually a rip-off of Adam's Apple, I think, by Aerosmith. So everybody's doing it to everybody. But it's got this kind of sassy, like, you know, I'm an empowered woman thing. So I'm going to kind of be fun and playful with the drums. You know, I'm getting that sense from this song. So I'm going to put that into the performance too. And how do I quantify that? What does that sonically sound like? It's just maybe just an attitude, energy I have in my head, you know, just something that comes out. I probably wouldn't mess with this too much. There's that break again, okay? So you could do the Dave Grohl approach, which is do the same thing every single time. That's one of his approaches, but you could do the same thing every single time. So you listen to like Smells Like Teen Spirit. Every time he plays that chorus and that post-chorus, it's the exact same thing. That becomes the thing. That becomes like, that's the thing. You know, something like Heart-Shaped Box, every time he gets one of those fills, he does a different one. And it's like, what's he gonna do next? So that's kind of the Neil Peart thing, you know what I mean? So you sort of have like the one where you just keep giving them the same thing over and over again, and it just like, it builds. It has this really interesting way of building. Or you go, here's the thing, ba-da-dum, and now I'm gonna go da-da-da-dum, and then I'm gonna go da-da-dum, da-da-dum, and now you're building, and again, Neil Peart is, you know, classic. That's his thing. And you take the listener on a journey, whether they're a musician or not, doesn't matter, because they can feel that build. So this pre-chorus is a little long for nothing to happen. So again, I would ask, is there going to be other stuff in the pre-chorus? Is something going to happen? Around the half mark, I want something different. So maybe I might want to go. You know what I mean? Like, so I did double time halfway through, and then I build, which the build is a little dated sounding, so that doesn't work on this. But something. Let's see about that second half. You know, so now I'm in this already, which is that fill. You know what I mean? So, okay. There you go. So again, some ideas just turning, but I'm wanting to do something in that second half of that pre-chorus. It doesn't have to be dramatic, but I want something to happen. And it could even be, a ghost note. right? Chorus, again, maybe crash. I can hear that. Here we go to that part again. Yeah, I'm really liking ba ba you boom boom ga ga doom doom da ga 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 boom boom ga ga doom doom ga ga ga. It's gonna happen. That's okay. Modulation. Nice. Okay, so we got this same break after this second chorus, the hey, hey, you say it loud, but now it's a 2-measure break. So that's kind of cool, right? So now this is a classic example. This confuses me. So I would want to hear this without drums because I like that boom, ga, doom, boom, ga, doom, ga, doom, boom. But then all of a sudden, ga, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom. That's for me is way too much stuff going on in that short period of time, and I'm kind of not paying attention to the vocal. So let's see what we can do. Let's listen to it without vocal. Let's see where we're at. Same section. What are here's the thing. So what are the instruments doing? Because the drums are going doom ga doom boom boom ga, nice kind of Steve Smith kind of feel with a bell of the ride in there. I could hear that. That'd be cool, but let's hear what the instruments are doing. A lot of times the information will be in there. So sometimes the vocal will tell you with its phrasing, but let's listen to the drums, the instruments rather.
Gotta be a test to see what I'm made of. Underestimation's fuel for my fire. Who I wanna be.
So I'm kind of liking double time over that when I just hear it by itself. Let's listen to the end of the chorus.
Gotta be a test to see what I'm made of. Underestimation's fuel for my fire. Who I wanna be.
Too much drums. That was fun though. Okay, but the double time was too much, but he kind of had or whoever played this had the drums kind of boom, ga, boom, kind of break up because the very eighth note heavy feel on the whole tune. I do like that. And the hey, hey, you already had the double time, so maybe we won't go there. But again, let the instruments determine where you're gonna go. So let's listen to that again.
Gotta be a test to see what I'm made of. Underestimation's fuel for my fire.
Yeah, I kind of like that feel now as I'm hearing it again, the original feel that's on the demo. But let's put that through the whole thing. But let's do fills and ad-libbing stuff that sounds spontaneous, but that is in the feel. So if you got boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, 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 bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, ba ba, boom, ba, boom, ba, bap, boom, bap, boom. You're kind of like building it up, but you're keeping those accents in there. So let's listen to what that kind of sounds like.
Gotta be a test to see what I'm made of.
So, no, maybe we hit that.
Gotta be a test to see what I'm made of.
Again, but I'm adding. So you know, bat, dun, dun, da dun, dun, batter, dun, dun, batter. It's the same bat, 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 dagga-dagga-dum, dagga-dagga-dagga-da. It's the same accent, but it's a fill. You know what I mean? So I've gotten away with now maybe playing a little more than I normally could because I've worked it into a musical framework. I've worked it into a rhythm that is already in here. And so it's like, oh, that felt great. And it's like, yeah, cool. I just did a bunch of fills. Awesome, you know? So there you go. All right, let's see what happens after this. We got a modulation, so I don't have to do much because the song's now doing something. So let's let that settle in. So maybe if we haven't gone to the crash yet, we definitely go now. I definitely am hearing a little skip there. And again, no apologies. So I'm wanting to cop that vocal, and I'm adding some kicks too. So if the kick pattern is boom bap, boom boom bap, listen to what I'm doing instinctively as I listen to this chorus, which is now turning into a double chorus. It's already modulated, so I'm gonna stay here. Boom boom. Pop, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom. Pop, pop, boom. Boom. Boom, boom. He's gonna play this through this. It doesn't need that double time. It's kind of too obvious. Okay, now let's do double time since it's this song. Don't mess with anything now because we're at the end. Okay, so you see my thoughts, you know, and some of that's taste, you know. Depending on what era of music you come up in, we all have different instincts. For me, I'm mindful of my 80s instincts because they're strong. Just naturally, it's the era I grew up in. So I listen to what goes on in music now and throughout the ages, as it were. And you get the pull from stuff. So that skip thing, that's a 90s thing. You know, everybody was, and everyone was that, and then, which I'm not, I won't comment on that, but anyway, all these little things going on, because we had heard boom, the 80s were all about the, so now it's like, well, the tempo works and the kick pattern works, but can we, you know, put that skip in there? So I'm adopting that skip happening, and I was adding kick drums in there, so it was, hey, yeah, do I wanna be? So that's the main pattern, but I've instinctively started adding. Do I wanna be down next to be? Down, down, down. So see how I'm just singing and playing it? And I've already memorized the melody, which is always a good sign. I've had situations where I've had a hard time memorizing the song, and unless it's, you know, Yes or something like that, if it's supposed to be a pop song, but it's hard to memorize, if it's hard for me to memorize it, and I'm a professional memorizer, that's about, especially in a session, the fact that I can come in and listen to something once or twice and then go cut it is a big reason I get hired, because I don't need to sit with it for a day or a week or practice it. I can just listen and go, okay, cool, let's go. And we'll do 1 or 2 passes, and then maybe, hey, can you try this or that? And we're done. So if I'm having a hard time memorizing it, and that's my job, then, my girlfriend or my wife or either one, just someone who's not a musician is going to have a hard time memorizing it, right? I'm going to get in trouble for that later. Okay, so, and you saw my instincts too as it went to, hey, you, say it loud. I didn't want to do that double time because I'm like, nah, we already heard that. And the song's cruising. Hey, you, hey, now, say it loud. And I'm like, okay, cool. What, it's going to end here? Loud, say it loud. Hey, oh, it keeps going. Okay, now let's do the double time because I'm out of that, that thing worked for a minute. But now it's going, and I wouldn't do any fills or anything. Whatever, But you can see too, I've already got the song memorized, which is a testament to the song. The hooks, and then the vocal melodies are in there. Let's see what the drums did on the demo, because we just listened to it without drums. Okay, so that's kind of a modern thing. I mean, you hear that a lot in like pop and hip hop, where the song would just, and it literally just, you can hear them pull the fader like, done. There's no ending, because they either cut it to a loop or a drum track or something, and it's not, it's someone just writing the song, and then, well, we're done. So nobody actually performed the song, and it's like, song's done. So that's what that has. Maybe they want that, so that's cool, but I'd want to do something with that. And then you hear how they do. If it ended there, that'd be fine. That worked, but it kept going. So I wouldn't want to say this is the end, and go back to it. Unless I might say to the producer, hey, is this going to be a loop at the end? Because that could be like do 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 do. So it's big, massive, powerful orchestral ending, and then it switches to a like a little AM radio type sound. Okay, that works. And again, I'm talking a lot. Again, I'd sit down, listen to it, cool, and then I might say to the producer, hey, during the bridge, is that what you want? Do you like that pattern? They might go yeah, or no, or try whatever you want, or they might go absolutely, like I love that. Okay, cool, yeah, it's great, and I'm playing it. That's it. So I'm giving you tons of ideas and tons of opinions. On a session, I'm not offering any opinions unless I'm asked or I feel really strongly about something, and there's a very tactful way to say it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the gist of where I'm coming from. Now I'm excited to just go. I want to play the song. I want to get in there and rock this thing out, and let's see what happens. All right, so we're in the tracking room now. I'm behind my kit. I want to talk to you guys about a couple things from this side of the glass. So headphones, I always ask for the headphones with the greatest seal. So they gave me these Vic Firth headphones, which are, like drummer. If you're going to set off dynamite, you put these on. And these are for practicing, and they're great, and they're hooked up. And so I get the least amount of bleed. An issue for me is I play really loud. And so if I don't have a good seal, I'm having to crank the headphone volume just to get over the acoustic volume of the drums. And then it just ends up burning out my ears, and I don't get to play as dynamically because I'm wanting to play a little quieter, and it's messing with everything. So I want headphones with a really good seal. Also, what I do is, depending on the music, if it's a quieter kind of music, I will perhaps not use headphones, but if I have a whole day of earplugs, but if I have a whole day of tracking, I will, because I don't want to burn out my ears. So I have these musician earplugs, they're molded, and so I put these in, and then I put the headphones over that. And they give you filters like 20 dB cut, 10 dB cut. I said, you can just have like pieces of plastic I can put in there. So it's supposedly a full 0, but it's not accurate. But I put them in and they work pretty well to keep the volume out, so I can get the volume down, get the volume of my drums down, everything to a reasonable volume. In my ears, I'll typically listen to the strongest, most dominant instrument. Live, I'll listen to the strongest player. But especially on a song like this, it's like, what's the hook instrument? Is there a certain rhythm that's being dictated that I want to lock in? So I'm going to turn that up. The vocal I want in there, but usually not as loud, because the vocal may be ahead or behind. And these days, you're almost always playing to a click. And I'm happy to play with or without a click. But if I'm playing to a click and everyone else played to the click, like in this scenario, I'm playing last on this track, then I need to play to what everyone else played to. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is charts. I do read music and I do write out charts, but I prefer not to. I'd rather not be reading, I'd just rather be playing. So I really we listen to that song a lot in there. So normally, again, I'd give it like 2 listens. 1 listen first time, okay, and then ask some questions of the producer, and then listen to it again and kind of hear my parts and think about what the producer said, and then I'm ready to go track it. This song, again, we listened to it a lot more, but I haven't heard this song any more than you have. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it now and we'll see where I'm at. Later, what I will do is write out a chart and show you what that chart would look like, so you can see my process. But again, I prefer not to use a chart. And I think, that's just for me. If my reading skills, there's guys who can read and it doesn't sound like they're reading. For me, I just don't want to do anything else other than this. It's kind of like having a script for sex. And then you do this, it's like, just let me play. You know what I mean? Just let me play. Okay, let's rock. And I have, right now, I'm using this chrome over brass snare, and we've got that 0 ring on it, and then I've also got a drum tack on it. So it's pretty, the ring is pretty muffled. It's still open. I'll almost always hit rim shots. I can not hit rim shots, but I almost always do. So it's an instinctive thing. It's 2 different sounds, but it's usually a rim shot for me. So, all right, so let's see what happens.
See me coming, but I get to running on the floor before you know what it's shut. Don't judge by my size more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you
All right, so interesting. When I came up to that third chorus, I didn't know what I was going to play, and I ended up just going, because I didn't want to mess with it. So I might have an idea in there, and sometimes it's cool, but when I get out here, I end up changing things. That verse just kind of happened, that down. And see, I'm supporting that riff. Bow, now, now, now. Down, now, now, now. So I got bow, now, now, now. Bow, bow, now, now. Bow, now, now, now. Right? But I'm not doing much, and I give myself a lot of room. So I broke that verse up. I didn't play anything at the top. Then I came in just with the flam and the kick pattern. Then halfway through I came in with the hat, and again kept it on the sparse side. Then picked it up a little bit for that bridge, that pre-chorus. And you saw the bratum that happened right before that pre-chorus. What I mentioned in there, I said, you know, I'm just kind of hearing like a bratum. I'm still hearing it, still sounding good to me. So that's what I played. And the second time that pre-chorus came around, I was like, let's do that, you know. So someone I think of all the time when I'm in a session, there's not a session that goes by that I don't think of John Bonham, Ringo Starr, and Mickey Curry. And Mickey is a guy who came up in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, played with Hall & Oates, a lot of different artists, but his work with Bryan Adams and also the Cult was really influential on me. And Mickey just had a way of implying the groove in everything he did, and in his fills and everything. And so that's something that I will apply to certain kinds of songs. Other kinds of songs I'll apply kind of the Bonham approach, and other ones still the Ringo, which is a little more artsy and sparse, you know, and you can get into some fun kind of time work and stuff. I don't love what I did during the bridge. I'll mess with that. And also too, out of one of those choruses, I went boom ba na 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 da da na 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 dum boom bop boom bop boom hey hey you. So I did two bop bop on the 3 and 4 on the snare to set up the hey hey. And as I did, I'm like, nope, can't do that. I could do it in the middle, but to set up a part that is with, that's kind of a waste. You know what I mean? It's not, you're not getting the dynamics, you know? So I would not, I'm gonna cut that again, and I would not wanna go hey, hey, and just keep repeating that part. So as that went by, I was like, that blows. And then the bridge, yeah, I don't love what I did there. But coming out of that, I'd like to hear what the other instruments are doing, because I'm not really, I wanted to get some information from them, and they kind of just seem like they're hanging. So maybe I'll hang, you know, maybe next time I just go boom, you know, we'll try that. The modulation happened. I like what I was doing, and I was doing that skip, that thing as it went on. That was cool. And at the end, and the hey, hey, you, I played right through that. That felt good. And a lot of, also that pre-chorus, you know, that pre-chorus went boom, right? And then at the second half of the pre-chorus, I went, and I picked up that kick pattern and started moving forward. So you kind of are working with two kick patterns, boom, bat, boom, boom, and doon, doon, bat, doon, doon. The doon, doon, bat is a forward one. That's kind of a chorus thing. The boom, bat, boom, boom is a more laid back thing, and that works in verses and pre-choruses. I mean, those aren't rules. You can switch, and whenever you can, just play boom, bat, because that's the best. But as you can see, I made it through, and I felt like I played well, you know. So if the producer went, that was great, I'd go, okay, cool. Is there anything else that you'd like me to do differently? And they might have an opinion. And if they said, no, it's killer, sometimes they go, well, you know, will you want to try something again? I would like to try that bridge again. And also during that pre-chorus, that second one, I changed it up a little bit. I didn't play exactly what I played on the first one. Now, some producers might want you to play exactly the same thing. And for some songs, I might want to play. This one, it felt good to have an organic feel and just kind of like, it's just evolving, you know? It's the same general pattern, but it just kind of evolved a little bit. So those are all different things, and there's all different factors. Now, again, with all this information, if the producer said, I want you to play the same exact thing in the first pre-chorus that you played in the second, I go, cool, no problem. You know, so I'm telling you my instincts and my opinions, but whoever is paying me is my boss for that session, and so I'm doing what they're suggesting, you know. And again, we might have a conversation. They might go, hey, I want your input. So, and many times artists say to me, listen, I love your drumming, so just do what you think. And if something's like way too much or too little, I'll let you know, but just do your thing. And that works too. But when I'm on a job and I'm working, I'm really aware that I'm working, and it's the greatest job in the world, but I'm working, you know. And so I'm being creative, but I'm not using that. I'm not the artist, you know. I am an artist in my own right as a drummer and other things, but in that moment, that's the artist, that's the client, that's the boss, and I'm doing my job. So again, I'm giving you all this stuff, but I would never share all these things that I'm thinking in a session. This is just the patterns that are, you know, the thoughts that are going through my mind and why and where the things are coming from and all that, and all the different options, you know. Okay, so let's do another pass of that, and I'd like to try another snare. I thought this snare was super cool, but we're gonna try a different one. So this thing is just so gorgeous. Okay, so we have another one over here. Which is this Canopus bell brass, created, you know, after the Tama bell brass. It's heavy as hell, 8 lugs, so a bit more open. Let's see. Kind of hard to argue with that. This song has a more modern edge, and this drum has a more modern shotgun kind of crack to it. So I'm thinking this will work better. Now, normally, again, in a session, I would have gone through these before. I might have said to the producer, do you have a preference? Do you have a snare drum? A lot of times what I'll do is I go in a session, if they have something that they're doing that works for them, let me try it, you know? Now I might say, hey, you mind if I crank the snare up a little bit, or I have another drum, do you want me to bring, you know, it depends on the budget and all the different scenarios, but I'm always open to whatever's going on first and whatever is working for them, because they got that dialed in, you know what I mean? So that sounds pretty gnarly to me. So let's do another pass. Actually, I want to hear, I'm going to ask him if I can hear the bridge. And I just want to listen to that because I don't know what that's feeling like. Okay. So I just listened to that, and it works. I mean, I might be overshooting it. You know what I mean? I might be going, it's the bridge, I'm going to do something brilliant. Maybe, maybe not. So let me think about that. So. Kind of like that. So that's a producer question, because I'm going to stop the song. But that, you know, that felt better than what I did, that build up and that roll, which was fine. I mean, the other thought is to go. Always awesome. I mean, if I played totally what I wanted, I'd go. That's good old rock and roll. That a producer might go, dude, I love it. Again, for my instinct for this song, it's not really appropriate. So also what I do when I'm playing is, and back to the Mickey Curry thing, I kind of go, if I'm listening to this song, I want to hear the drummer. What would I want the drummer to play? Like, how do I want this song to feel? And I kind of imagine Mickey playing it and going, what would Mickey do, you know? And just kind of get in that role. Again, it's not this big thing like, okay, Mickey, I'm channeling Mickey Curry, you know what I mean? But that is the thought. It's like, oh, this has a Mickey thing. Okay, let me do that Mickey thing over this. And just listen to the song, and even though I'm the drummer playing it, how do I want this song to go? You know, listening to it as a listener, not as a player. It sounds kind of weird, but it works for me. And I don't like that break after the, I don't like what I'm doing after that break in the chorus. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna, I would say, can you put a little loop in there or something? And can I stop? Because I want to stop and go, bam, and then go into that. So I got somewhere to go. Because if I'm already rocking and then I go to the bridge, it's kind of like, where do I go? It's going to be a down. But if I come from nothing, then anything is a lift. You know what I mean? So again, it's all about the relationship, the loud and soft. And even though mostly what I play is loud, my ally is soft or nothing. You know what I mean? So I typically don't play soft unless that's what they want. But I play loud and hard, but let's try and play nothing or play sparse. You know, or I have the hi-hats, okay, let me clamp them down. You know, that's my dynamic, but how hard I hit the snare is the same, which is just something that I've kind of adopted over the years from listening to live recordings of myself. And then when I do play dynamically, it goes away. So it's like, I'm just gonna, that's the snare. You know, you don't need a sample. I'm just gonna give you this crushing snare drum every single time, and then you can turn it up or down and do what you want with it. Okay, so let's try that again. Yeah, I'm gonna do something on that bridge. It's just take two. But the point being, listen to the song, come in, play it. You know, that if that's what they wanted, that's a usable take. That was solid. You know what I mean? So, and the more you do that, the better you'll get at that. And something I do is, again, not consciously, just find myself doing it. You know, going to CVS, Walgreens, whatever, some big grocery store, and they're playing that Muzak weird pop stuff you only hear in those places. And you hear the tunes, and so when the chorus comes and the verse happens, memorize the pattern, and the next time the verse comes, have that pattern memorized and have that, oh, I know what's going to happen for this chorus. And also, too, you'll start to see certain songwriting patterns and habits, and you can kind of almost telegraph where it's going to go, and that just makes your job that much easier. You know what I mean? So get to understand music and songwriting from a songwriting perspective rather than just playing the drums. And again, I showed you that cozy pal. I'll play that all day long, man. You know, but not if it's not appropriate. All right, so let's try from the top again. And for my click too, I use Marimba 2 in Pro Tools, which is just, so no accents. I don't need beep, boop, 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 beep. I just want that click. I just want it to give me that pulse, and then that's about it. You want to hear the snare? Is it cool? That sounds good. Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. Yep.
See me coming, but I get to running on the floor before you know what it's ya. Don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't it for purposes of display? Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Don't pass over me, I'm quite a good read. So don't you judge this book by its cover. Miscalculate me, I'll make you believe I may be sweet, I sure ain't a sucker. Ain't going nowhere, I'm sorry to say. Before long you will remember my name. Say it with me, got a nice ring, don't you wear it out. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me.
Okay, so I played differently on that one because of this snare. Just hitting the snare, I just got into a different headspace, which I think was more appropriate for the tune. That'll happen, you know. Just thinking about it. I still don't love what I did in the bridge. Coming out of it, that stop might be cool. We'll have to listen. And then at the end, when I go, no. Don't I wanna hitting that crash on the snare on the 4 each time, which is a Phil Rudd thing, that propels it. And so if I get into something like that, once I start, don't ever stop. Only build up from there. And then you saw when it went to the hey, you, say it loud, I'm bashing away, but I went up here. So this cymbal's a little bit lower in pitch. Go to this one, it lifts it a little more. Then I went to double time. So I'm constantly going up, even if I'm not changing the parts, which for that part I did go to the double time, you know, but I just keep adding intensity. And again, it can just be subtle little things. So let's go take a listen. And normally I might have even listened after that first take, gone and listened. But let's go see what's happening in there, and we'll take it from here. All right, so we're back in the control room and we're gonna take a listen. This is the second take that I did with the bell brass snare, and I was feeling better about that one generally, so let's see how it sounds. You never know.
See me coming, but I get to running on the floor before you know what it's Don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout. Who I wanna be, no apologies.
Cool. I feel like I might have worked a little too hard on those kick patterns, like it's a little too busy, you know. I'm gonna see if I can play less. This is a question too. If you know, this sounds like a guy in a band. You know, it sounds like a band, sounds like a youthful performance. The producer might not want that. You know, they might want it to sound a little more arena rock, a little bigger, you know, and not quite as fiery, you know. So that's a question for the producer. But on the next pass, I'll do it a little more sparse, and you'll see what I mean. See how I themed, you know, the first hit fill was bat dun dun bat dun dun dat, and then this one was da dun dun da dun dun dat. So it's the same accents, it's just different amounts of notes in between, right? And different drums. So there's a theme in there, and that'll allow you to play a little bit more, but have it all sound in context. Yeah, and I feel that hey, you, that ba boom is like annoying the hell out of me, you know. Hey, you, hey, loud, hey, you, hey. I don't want that in there. It's cluttering up the power and the gang vocal aspect of it. So that's I'm gonna take that out. So that bridge wasn't as bad as I thought, but I really like it. Boom, gat, doom, boom, gat, doom, boom, without the kicks in there and stuff. Again, just working too hard. I don't really like that stop, but if you have someone else in the room, then you can get some input, you know. They might go, "Oh, it's great," and we'll just cut the guitars, you know. But you never know. So maybe I'll go in the theme of the other two fills, which were ba boom boom ba boom boom ba 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 ba, and then the other one was ba da boom boom ba da boom boom ba da da. Maybe I'll go da 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 da. You know what I mean? So we're just getting to that end place. All right, let's listen to the rest of this. That crash is cool. I like that. Obviously, the double time definitely works here, and the kick being in there too. Okay, so cool. I almost asked you what you thought because I want another opinion, which is helpful, which is why making music with other people is a good thing. All right, let's check out this previous take with the other snare also. Let's see what's up.
See me coming, but I get to running on the floor before you know what it's. Don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't up for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak, you gotta shout. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you be.
As far as the snare drums sound, I could go either way. They both sound good. You know, this one sounds old school and the other one sounds new school. So it's really a matter. I mean, the good news is they both sound great. So that's cool. Performance, this is interesting.
Coming, but I get to running on the floor before you know what it's.
So I'm thinking, so maybe that, you know, so no kick in the beginning and then add the kick and then go to the hi-hat for the pre-chorus. It's another option. So let's see about this. Cool. If the producer liked it, I'd leave it. But it's,
so don't you judge this book by its cover. Miscalculate me, I'll make you believe I may be sweet, I sure ain't a sucker. Ain't going nowhere, I'm sorry to say. Before long you will remember my name. Say it with me, got a nice thing, don't you wear it out.
Obviously, I like that fill for the second chorus, so I'm gonna keep that. And I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay. You know, that pre-chorus could go a million different ways. Let's see what's going on here. Chorus, we already know about that, and then the hey hey, and let's see the bridge. That works too. So again, first take, instincts. Even though I didn't like it so much when I played it in there, and then I come back and listen, I'm like, no, that feels pretty damn good. So, and that bridge again. Yeah, I don't want that second, that third note. It is now boom, gat, doom, doom, boom, gat, doom, doom. I just wanted to go boom, gat, doom, boom, gat, doom, boom, gat, doom. Boom, gat, doom, boom, gat, doom, doom, boom, gat, doom, doom, bat. How about that? Let's do that. Okay. It's kind of hard to, be wrong when you're asking yourself the answers, but I'm assuming you guys said, yeah, sure, do that. That's fine. And then at the end, now see, I ripped that off of Jonah Nimoy, who has a band called Furiosa, and that's the end of one of his songs. So there you go. It's just in my Rolodex of things. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm honestly feeling like I'm wanting to go. So what do you think? You know what I mean? Because I've listened and thought, but I want some feedback. You know what I mean? So that's a natural part of the process. In this, I just have to, come up with all the answers myself. But the creativity and the creative process is really about that interaction. So, okay, cool. Well, let's go do another pass. I'm going to just basically simplify everything. And let me listen to that snare drum one more time, because this one really sounded good with the track. Let me listen to the chorus, which is the most important thing. Yeah, let's listen to this one. That sounds better to my ears as far as sitting in the track with everything as the way it is now. It just feels like it gels better. So it's a matter of opinion. Let me listen one more time. Let me turn up the track a little bit more, and let's see what that does. Okay, so it's really about how it sits with the vocal, so let's listen to the other one. It could go either way. I'm going to go this way, maybe because it sounds like an old school rock. And another option is to just drop the tuning on the bell brass. Yeah, let's drop the tuning on the bell brass, acknowledging that it could go either way. This could be fine. The other one could be fine. Or again, we're going to drop that bell brass pitch down. It's just a little too tight for the tempo, in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to drop that, and we'll do another pass and simplify. Okay. All right, so we're going to drop the tuning on this drum a little bit. These are these Evans keys, and I'm not trying to hawk like the company's gear who I play for. I mean, the thing is I only play stuff that I really like. And these things, I was like, what's this little thing on top? And as I used it, I realized, oh, wow, that's really helpful. So First of all, it's magnetized. So if you put it on the floor tom and then you hit the floor tom, it doesn't rattle around, which is super helpful. And then also, this thing is like when you're putting a head on and you're finger tightening it, you know, you just finger tight, you can just do this. And you can't really get a whole lot of torque, so you just keep doing it until it, like you're done, and then you're like, okay, that's as far as that. So that's like the finger tightening bit. So anyway, and it feels pretty good in your fingers. So, all right, so we're gonna drop a tuning a little bit. So, you know, this is where it is now. It sounds awesome. You know, I'm listening more than I'm like feeling how far I'm turning it. And typically, I wouldn't have the drum cranked up this tight. We did a gig last night and somebody sat in and cranked it up. Okay. So let's get. And what you can do is, you listen. Dun, dun, dun. That's that high one, so I'm gonna bring the high one down. You can also turn up the low one, but. That's good if I get rid of some of that ring. It's pretty fat. Hey, there we go. Okay, let's try it. See what's up. There's just something about that lower pitch that I liked on the drum, but I did like the kind of the modern crack of this drum. And I have a bunch of other drums that I use. You know, all the rest of them are Ludwig's. The Acrolite is an amazing drum that you can find used for probably about $100, kind of anywhere. Guitar Center, Craigslist, whatever. That's an amazing drum. It's really versatile. I think it was a student model to begin with, but you know, even the most inexpensive things that Ludwig made are still great. So that's a great one. I have a Black Beauty at home, you know, but I just been playing this, not this one, but the other one, the chrome over brass, and that one just ends up, you kind of, you know, you get into a relationship with one of those drums and you just start using it and utilizing it, and it kind of ends up on a bunch of sessions, you know. And also have a Pioneer, no, it's not a Pioneer, it's the wood, and it's the something or other, transition badge, I can't remember. It's not the Pioneer, it's the 8-lug. That has a name, just 8-lug wood 60s drum snare, look that up. And it's beautiful, it's got Duco finish, and it's got nickel over brass lug casing. It's really nice. So, but this is the one we're on today. So let's move forward. Did I break a stick? I did. So that happened. Thankfully, not during the take where it exploded. So for my sticks, I play Vader Power 5B. And it's basically, I like the stick to do the work. So gravity is gonna make it this loud without me doing anything. So I'll take it, you know. Again, same thing with the kick pedal setup. Just what's the minimal amount of effort I can exert and get the maximum amount of power. And if you're tense, well, here it starts. If you're tense here, it goes through here, it comes out here, and it goes through here, and it goes to here, and then it goes into here, and then it goes into here. I don't know how it works, but it's real. So relax, 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 relax this, and then everything else will sound big. So it's interesting because I have a gig where a lot of different drummers play my gear, and it's amazing how different everybody sounds. And everybody sounds great, but it's amazing how different they sound, you know. So so that's something, it's a whole other bag. It's very drummer specific, but to relax. And one thing you can do that's really helpful actually is to practice on a pad. Just do quarter notes like this, right? And listen to the note of the stick. And you can tell when you're choking the stick because the stick won't give you that note. You know, there's a note. If you hit the, you can hear the pitch of the stick. If you do that on a pad, you can tell when you're choking the sticks out. And if you're choking the sticks, you're gonna choke the drum. You can actually choke the cymbals too. It's real. I don't know. It's science. Okay, let's rock and roll. So I'm gonna play a little more sparse and simple.
Seen it coming, but I get to running on the floor before you know what hits ya. Don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't it for purposes of display? Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout who I wanna be. No apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be. No apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Don't pass over me, I'm quite a good read. So don't you judge this book by its cover. Miscalculate me, I'll make you believe I may be sweet, I sure ain't a sucker. Ain't going nowhere, I'm sorry to say. Before long you will
So I messed up. I really liked what I was doing. I screwed up that pre-chorus. So can we go from the top of the second verse, that little break there?
Don't pass over me, I'm quite a good read. So don't you judge this book by its cover. Miscalculate me, I'll make you believe I may be sweet, I sure ain't a sucker. Ain't going nowhere, I'm sorry to say. Before long you will remember my name. Say it with me, got a nice ring, don't you wear it out. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me.
that felt good. I felt like those, hey, you, say it with nothing in between. It felt really naked to me, but it might sound right. We'll see. And the other thing too is you can see when I'm playing, I'm not putting on a show. I'm playing. And so what I tend to do, and I'm just listening because this is only going to be heard, you know, even though it's being seen. I tend to just kind of stare at something. So I kind of stare at the hi-hat, but I'm not really looking at anything, and I'm playing here. And I'm sort of staring at the cymbals, but I'm not looking at anything in particular, but it's just kind of like a meditative thing that my brain does. You know, sometimes I'll just stare at something at the wall, and I'm just kind of zoned out. And so that just kind of shuts all this off, and I can just play. So I don't know if that's a technique, you know what I mean? It's not anything I practice, but it's something I find happening. I find myself just kind of, I get into this physical thing, and I'm in this zone, and one good barometer is if I'm going boom, and I'm in that zone, and I go back, do some fill, and it just takes me out of that zone. It's like, no good, back into the zone. And the zone is the determiner, not so much like what's the fill or what drum am I gonna hit. You know, it's just the zone. Am I in the zone? If I did a take and I'm like, I was in the zone for that whole take. Cool, that's great. You know. I felt good about everything else. I like how sparse the verses were. And again, I had that theme going. And we built nice. Pre-chorus was cool. I liked what I did in that bridge. That felt powerful to me. Doom, ga, doom. Or what, I don't even know what I did. Doom, ga, doom, doom, ga, doom. And then, second half, I went doom, ga, doom, doom, boom, ga, doom, doom. You know, I went there. So what's going to happen, depending how they do the panning, first of all, that was the beat I started with, the second half. I started with that on the other takes. I said, let me take it away, because my approach is, how much can I take away and still have this song work? You know, how much can I get out of the picture and still have this thing be what it is? And you'll find a point where you'll go too much, and it's like, oh, it's starting to shit. Okay, I need to support it there. Okay, cool, and I need to support it here. But I want to be as invisible as possible, making me all the more visible in a different way, rather than, you know, which that's fun too. But so I'm constantly trying to remove myself, and how many notes can I take out, you know, and really concentrate on the pulse, the groove, the pocket, the feel, and really support that song. So I felt good about that, and we're gonna go listen to it and see what happened. Never know. All right, so we're back, and we are going to check. Well, we're not going to go to a fucking commercial. Do it again.
Oh, that was pretty good.
All right, we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it. It's spontaneous. This is real. I'm a real person. We are back in the control room, and we're going to watch and listen to what happened. I think that the snare tuning was really good, and let's see what happened. And it's more sparse, too, so let's check it out.
But I get to running on the floor before you know what it's. Don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other.
I love that. It totally supports the vocal, and it reminds me of a Pat Benatar attitude too. And again, not something I would say to the artist, although she may love Pat Benatar, but I would just keep that to myself. But it's got that like a Joan Jett, you know, kind of 77 punk pop thing going on. So then when that kick comes in, I don't play it at all in the first, you know, couple measures, and then down, 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 down. That's, I didn't consciously think of that. I played that the previous take, and I thought about it. I said, oh right, it's with the guitar. So I got that down, 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 down. So I'm supporting that down as little. Again, I love that first verse because I didn't really do anything, and yet it moved, and I found myself listening to her vocal. Perfect, good. That's exactly what I want, like, as the, you know, producer of this moment here, you know. So there you go.
Coming, but I get to running on the the floor before you know what hits ya. Don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes.
I love that.
Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout.
I'm happy with all that. So you even just listening to the drums, you hear it. Boom, bat, boom, bat, boom, 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 boom, bat, boom, boom, bat, boom, bat, boom, boom, bat, bat, boom, bat, boom, bat, boom. So it just is escalating, you know, boom, bat, boom, boom, and then doom, doom, bat, doom, 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 bat, boom, bat, boom, bat, boom, you know, so it automatically does what the vocal's doing and what the song's doing. And that's what you want to be doing, either consciously or unconsciously.
Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud.
I love it. It's very Mutt Lange, you know, it's very produced. No, again, it felt so weird for me to go boom, bat, but it's super powerful, super clean. Now, again, also the chorus, boom, I don't know, bound, down, down. I didn't even do that. I just played straight through it. To me, it works. And I hear her vocal, and it sounds big and powerful. And when you mix it, it's going to sound massive, you know, where as opposed to doing all this extra stuff, which could be cool. And again, the producer might go, that's cool, but I want that, I want that teen energy behind it. And then I would play it differently. But that's, to me, is the biggest that chorus has sounded.
Here's a caution.
Oops. Yeah.
Don't pass over me. I'm quite a good read, so don't you judge this book by its
So now I'm just playing the same exact beat that I was playing at the very beat, halfway through the first verse, but I added the hi-hat. And there's not a flam in there. And then you hear that, bat, doom, which I had mentioned in the very beginning. I'm like, see how the vocal kind of does that? Maybe I could do that. And I didn't acknowledge that, but I do acknowledge that in the second verse just to give it a little something,
Miscalculate me, I'll make you believe I may be sweet,
You know?
I sure ain't a sucker. Ain't going nowhere, I'm sorry to
Now I am playing the same exact thing in this pre-chorus as I played in the previous one.
Say it with me, got a nice ring, don't you wear it out. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be, no apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud. Hey, hey, you, say it loud, say it loud.
See, I'm adding that kick. It helps. So I was doing this going, if they like this, they can just cut this and put this over the first chorus.
Gotta be a test to see what I'm made of. Underestimation's fuel for my fire. Who I wanna
So, you know, little A little zing there. So that's pretty sparse, and that would be a conversation with the producer. But again, I like it. Because then it leaves somewhere to go here. And now this. So I'm going boom, gat, doom, floor, doom, gat, doom, kick, boom. You know what I mean? I set up that fill. I want that power of the kick, but it's in the same exact rhythm as that floor tom. So I'm playing the same pattern over and over and over again as much as I can. You know what I mean? There you go. So it's the roll, but it's got a little thing at the top, which, you know, it's cool. And again, I'm getting way analytical on everything I'm doing here, but as I'm hearing it, I'm kind of realizing I wanted to signal this is the half mark, and normally in this chorus they'd go to the hey, hey, you. So I do the double time thing. And it's like it doesn't go there, but I kind of hint at it, you know? And do it again. And I go to a busier kick pattern, and I go to that smaller crash, which is higher in pitch, so it jumps out a little more, so it gives it a lift. And now into the double time. Little drummery things, kind of bullshit. I probably would opt to not do that little kick pattern. And I kind of got a little quirky at the end. You know, maybe I might go back and go down, 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 down. You know what I mean? Rather than hit down the one like I was doing. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So again, I need somebody to tell me, hey, that's cool, or that's not cool, or let's do this or that. But so you see, I think an overview is that this is a distillation process, if that's a word, but it's distilling it down. I had all these ideas and all these possibilities, and then played them. As I played them, I felt them, and I was like, that feels weird. Or I listened to it, and I was like, that doesn't sound so good. Other things like that, after I got to the second take, I was like, maybe that first take is whatever. But when we go back and listen to it, I said, oh no, that's cool, actually, I like that. So I did that. But I, again, simplified it, took out the kicks in the first few measures, and then added the kicks. So that's kind of the deal. And again, this has taken us a couple hours, maybe a few hours. This would have taken 15 minutes. It could take an hour, you know what I mean? But usually this happens really fast. And it's not rushed, it just happens fast, you know? So the process is quick. And that's it. You know, I think, a really big part is being able to hear something and without rehearsing it, go play it, you know, and nail it. So that first take I did, it could be more this or that, but it wasn't speeding up and slowing down. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It was right. It sounded really good, and it was just a matter of preference, but it was usable. You know what I mean? So you want to be in that place where because that first take's always going to have that magic, but if you don't have the enough, if you haven't developed your I guess it's a skill for that particular skill of just being able to go in there and nail it right out the gate, then those first takes, they don't get used, but they have so much cool excitement, but then you're trying to recreate it, and you're like 5 takes down, and you're like, this is the best I can do. You know what I mean? So again, it's about just doing it over and over and over and over again. You know, and doing records is the best way to do this, you know, making records. Make records with your friends, make records with anybody. Use a 4-track, or, Pro Tools, whatever you want. Put up a couple mics, get used to playing with a click, and get used to getting comfortable when that light goes on, you know? And just really get focused on doing your work and what you're there to do, rather than getting focused on, oh, the light's on, okay, I'm recording and this costs money or whatever. Just no, forget all that, man. Just get comfortable and get in your zone and play. So that's the process. I hope that this has been inspiring and informative and also reaffirming for you guys, because I know if you guys have been doing this for any length of time, you're gonna see things that I do and realize you do the same thing, you know, and then there's gonna be other stuff that you see I do and you do it differently. Cool, that's great. You know, the only thing that must happen is play at your absolute best all the time. Crush it. You know, you want to walk out of that studio feeling like, man, I kicked ass today. I did a great job, you know? And part of that is playing, but a big part of that is personality and dealing with the people in the room and being gracious and being polite and being cool and being open to suggestion and being cooperative. And that's it. So if you got any questions or you want to give me any feedback, you can find me on the web, Matt Starr. My site is mattstarrmusic.com. Reach out to me. Thanks so much for checking this out. Thanks to the guys at ProMix Academy, Warren Huart, and everybody else. See you soon.
Hello, it's Warren Hewitt here. Hope you're doing marvelously well. So, this is what I've decided to do, which I believe is going to be the most helpful thing. I have opened the session up. Now, obviously I'm on Pro Tools, which is the exact same thing that Matt did, but I've opened up the exact session you have got. So if you do happen to be on Pro Tools, this will be even better still, but the principles are going to be the same. We are going to listen to the tracks and talk about them and talk about what we would do in the mix, just to kind of like give you a heads up and a head start. Also, I'm going to talk about how they were recorded. And just so you know, in true Warren Hewitt style, I have not even listened to these yet. And the reason for that is I just want to have that same experience that you're going to have. So this is going to be good, and I believe this is going to be something that I would want to see, because most of the time doing what we do is I want to know what the person working on thinks about this, what their thought process is. So this is the drum kit as it stands at the moment. Now this is the take 04. Let's have a quick look and see what other options there are. Oh, he did loads of different takes here. So this is kind of fun. Wow. Okay. You see, I'm getting it the same way you guys are getting it. This is crazy what differences of things he did. Okay. I'm going to start off with the one on top, which is 04. So let's have a listen. So it's not edited. Here's the instrumental.
On the floor before you know what it's don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. It ain't out for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout who I wanna be. No.
All right. So there's some great insanity in that. That fill is crazy.
You gotta shout who I wanna be. No apologies. Die before I let you bury me. Who I wanna be. No apologies.
So they've done some EQ in here. See what they're doing is they're taking out some of the low mids and boosting some high mids. This wasn't me. I didn't give it to this. This would have been Matt when he was at the studio recording. So I can take some of that out. Will give us a little bit more fun.
You gotta shout who I wanna be. No apologies. Die before I let you bury.
I mean, pulling out that low mids, I kind of understand what they did. Sort of, kind of, ish, sort of. You know, pulling out about 200. It may have been the room, you know, sometimes. That doesn't seem like that critical to me, but it probably allows some of the girth of the drums to go through. So if you're in this situation where you're tracking drums to a pre-existing kit, getting rid of super lows or low mids can allow a little more breadth in it. However, I will say with drums, when I track them, low mids is usually something I'm pulling out of the drums to make them a little bit more aggressive in a drum kit. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to suspend my groups, which in Pro Tools is Shift Option G, and then we're going to listen. We're going to go down and talk about the tones and everything, because I'm doing this from the production and mixing, engineering point of view. This is a track I co-wrote with the artist. So here's the kick. So this is definitely a kick in. So that's no EQ. So they're doing some fairly typical thing here already. Boosting at around about, let's see, where's he kind of boosting? Here, it's a little higher than I would go. They're boosting at 90. I normally would come down to about 60, but let's have a look, see what the, on this next kick, what that's about. It's kind of nice. That's all the head. It's like the outside head. It's breathing. And then there's a beta head here. So here's some interesting stuff. So just listening to that, I see what they're doing is they're rolling off some super, super lows. That's absolutely fine. I'm not gonna get too crazy because this is what you guys are gonna be getting, but I'm gonna show you a couple of tricks. So here's one trick. If you notice this beta head here, this track, there's a lot of snare bleed. Now we can't gate the snare bleed out, can we? Because if we gate that out, we're also going to gate a lot of the kicks, a lot of the softer kicks. Because look, listen here. I mean, for instance, this snare is, that's as loud as the kick. So what do? Well, a nice little trick here. We're going to sidechain some compression. We're going to keep this really generic. So we're going to get the most basic Pro Tools compressor. Here it is, compressor / limiter dynamic 3. Okay, so you might be asking, why do I need this? This is what we're going to do. We're going to take the snare top, which you can see here if we have a listen to the snare top. So we've got the snare top there. It's mainly, as you can see in here from the waveforms, it's got bleed into it, but it's essentially the snare. There's other things bleeding in lightly. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and we're going to create a send. So we'll come out and we'll call it bus 1 because bus 1 is available. Turn it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on pre-fade. Why am I doing it on pre-fade? That's so I can do this. And I can mute the channel or unsolo it or whatever. And that way, when I go and solo the drums or I just solo the kick, I'll still get the same sound. Okay, so what I just did there is I went to my compressor limiter and I chose sidechain, which is this key up here. See this key here? And I changed it to bus 1. So now the compressor is being triggered from the snare. So really basically, I've got the snare top. I'm sending a send here from bus 1. No matter what DAW you're in, you can do this. I'm sending it pre-fade, which means I can mute, I can turn down, I can do whatever I like with the mix on the snare, but it won't affect the send. And that way, I can now do this. So I am going to compress using the sidechain. So here you go. I'm going to turn on the sidechain. Watch this. See this? Bypass it. We can get more aggressive. So let's get here. Let's loop a section. Let's just take this little piece here. Already a little quieter. It's coming down like 3 dB. Listen to that. Let's get the release a little faster. See how loud the snare is? If I put it back in. Release this fast enough. Beautiful. So it does one of two things. It takes the snare out of the kick mic there, because that will be the outside kick, or it's probably the beta head side. I'm not watching the video as we speak, so it might be the beta side, and it's got a lot of bleed. It does one of two things. It compresses just the snare signal because it's side chaining through here. We enacted on Pro Tools here. See the little side chain that's highlighted? And that's really a really wonderful thing. But it doesn't just turn the snare down. It gives the snare a little aggression that I like. Listen to what it does. Now listen. Adds a little energy to it. So actually, in my humble opinion, actually helps the way the snare sounds in the track. So let's do a before and after. Here's the kick. And after, here's a before. See how that snare is just bleeding so badly through? So now we're keeping the integrity of the kick drum sound. We're not EQing it. We're not the EQ is already applied for the low lows, but we're not like overly EQing, trying to remove the snare drum. We're not gating, which would be completely pointless, because trying to set that gate, because if the snare's this loud and the kick's this loud, I mean, that's impossible to get your gate set. And even if you do set that gate like that, you're going to end up occasionally, some of these quieter kicks are going to get cut off as well. So we got rid of that. So what we've done is not only have we compressed the snare inside of it, we've also added a little extra energy by doing that to the snare. Now you might say, well, that's a cool idea. What about, Warren, if I wanted to? Yep, you guessed it, do the reverse with the kick drum. Let's have a listen. So let's listen to the... So it's just for schnitz and schniggles. Let's do the same thing. So what we could do is if we're going to do something, you know, what's good for the geese is good for the gander. If we're going to do something that's just on the snare, let's have a listen to the snare bottom. What's nice is they've got a shell mic here. It's an SM81. Here's a 57. 81. Together. What's nice about it is a little bit more body with the double miking. It's really tasty. A bit more snare bottom. Just for my liking, a little bit more snare bottom. Just taking out some of the lows in there. Let's do this. So I've just brightened the snare top a little bit. Okay, so what I would do is this. Let's take all of these. It's coming out the same outputs as they are on the console. You can do it whatever you want, whichever way you want, but for me it's just quick and easy because that's how it came up on the console. Okay, now what I'm going to do, still going to be my same output, just for my sanity, but I'm now going to bus the bus 2. Now, so I haven't changed anything yet. Now all 3 of those snares are coming out one bus. So why am I doing that? Why am I sending it all to that? So let's call it snare sub. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same compressor limiter. I'll just copy this one down just for the heck of it. And I'm going to change that to a different bus number. I don't know, let's go 3, because we're not using 3. Now I'm going to take the cleanest kick that we have. And the cleanest kick looks like the kick in, this top one here. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to open up bus 3 and send it from there. And of course, make it pre. And now that they're all grouped together, now the reverse is happening. Let's go to a more intense kick section so you can hear it. Here's 3. Listen to the kick. So much kick bleed is in there. Now let's listen to it. we get a faster release time. So it doesn't chop the front of that. But what I like about that is it allows, with the fast release time, it allows a little bit of the attack of the kick, just a tiny bit. And I think it sounds a little sweeter. It's almost like having a transient designer now in your kick and snare. It's just giving us more impact. Those transients are coming through. It's pretty darn good. So again, I mean, what have I been doing? I've done really hardly anything at all. I'm keeping that same basic EQ that Matt was tracking with. And again, if you don't have a DAW with that EQ, we'll do screenshots for you, and you'll get to see what the EQ he was doing if you don't have that particular DAW. But there you go. So already we've done some really basic drum mixing with only 2 compressors. We have already kind of improved the drum sound by removing some of the bleed, but in a very subtle way that didn't take crazy gating and crazy EQ and crazy volume automation and all the other stuff that people have to do. We just sidechain compressed 2 instruments. And it's given us nice, impactful drums. I mean, it's a subtle, subtle trick, but it works really great. Okay, next up is toms. Now, here's interesting. On this particular take, he doesn't play tom 3 at all. Now, he may have on the others. So, but what's my choice? Do I want to leave tom 3 open? Let's have a listen. Barely doing anything. Let's go to tom 1 and tom 2. Now, there's a lot of bleed in there. What do I want to do? Well, let's have a listen. It's pretty clean. It's pretty clean. There's a part of me that's like... Now, the EQ they've got on the SSL channels here, we'll go through it slowly, is there's a little bit of boost at about 6K here. 7K that's 6500 would be exact, but which is basically just to give us a little bit of brightness. You see, it's got 3 dB, a little bit more attack. Nothing in the high mids. A bit of cut in at about 800, and a lot of boost at I'd say about 75, 80. Not a lot of boost, but 3 dB. Tiny bit of EQ. So what we've got is we've got some low boost and some high boost and nothing else. Oh, except for some low cut. See here, he's gone up to about, 40 or 50 just to stop sort of low rumble. So it's kind of nice, tasty. Let's check out the other tom. Similar kind of, in fact, exactly the same. Exactly the same EQ points. So on both of those toms, the same EQ points. Now, I don't think there's much bleed in there that bothers me at all. But if there were, there's a whole bunch of things you can do. You can do, I'm going to give you a couple of options. You can do this, first of all. What I often will do, and it depends on whether you have volume automation or not, but what you could do is you could sit there and you could volume automate and turn down. A lot of guys I love, like Mark Ender, will turn down about minus 18 dB. So he'll go in here, and he'll come in and say, we're at 0. He'll come down to like, I don't know. Let's go down to about minus 18. But what you can do if you want to get really crafty, see, I could do that and I could go in there and draw it in really slowly by hand. But go to the volume here and let's just tab to the transient. Then I can cut the transient like so. And then I can turn my volume down here. So I came down 18 dB. And then I can cut to that transient there. See, and I can redo the cuts afterwards, but I'm just going to show you just briefly what I would do. It's a very, very basic version. And feel free to watch it 5 times if you're not sure what I just did. But I'm coming in 18 there. So now I have turned it down. Have a listen. So we can just listen to that one tom, for instance. as opposed to. Aha. Read was off. The read was not reading any volume automation I did. So now let's listen to it. Now, what do you think of that? It's a little harsh. It's not the end of the world because it's a rock track, but in a perfect world, you'd probably do this. So you're just going to draw it so it's a little smoother. That's probably, you can just like kind of come in there and draw a nice smooth curve. One of the main reasons for doing that is this cymbal bleed, because if you now take your drums and bust them to a stereo track and compress them really heavily, and there's a cymbal hit on that, boom, psh, on that tom, it might just explode inside of the compression, because that's the biggest enemy when it comes to toms is cymbal bleed. So now let's go to this tom down here. Do the same thing. I'm going to tap to transient, cut. I didn't recognize this transient here. That's God bless Pro Tools. That happens all the time. And I'm just going to do the same quick trick. I'm going to turn this down. I'm going to make sure this is set to read, so it reads my automation. And then turn this one down. Although, of course, we need to find the next tom hit, which is here. We turn that down by 18 dB from where it was at. And similarly, we're going to do this. Now, you can do this in all kinds of ways. You can use clip gain. You can do volume automation. It doesn't matter. It's just the principle of bringing it down but not turning it off. Because once this is compressed, that background noise will come back up again. You know, if it goes through a bus compression or whatever. You're not trying to get rid of it because you don't want your drum kit to sound like that, do, dit, 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 boom, boom, boom. You're not trying to make it sound completely disjointed. You want the cohesion of the mics bleeding into each other, but you're just using it, you're reducing it a little bit. Cool. And now, because there's no toms in this other one, I'm not going to get rid of it, but I'm going to bring it down to -18 as well. So I'm just turning down the whole of that track. Now, a couple of things I've noticed here. There's no panning going on. So let's make sure that that tom, even though it's not being used, I'm doing it from audience perspective. And then this tom, I'm going to put over about 30. This one, I'm going to put over about 20, 30 that way, and then we should get great. So it's starting to come together. Now the hi-hat, I'm going to put over at about 60. Again, audience perspective. If you're a drummer, you may pan it from the drummer's perspective. Perfectly fine. Not a problem at all. I am not a drummer. Well, I do play drums, but I'm not a drummer. I'm not a good drummer. So here we go. Hi-hat in. So I've done some nice EQing there, bit of high mids there, high end. Bit of mid-range taken out of 5K, so it's not quite so harsh. And then some low roll-off there, so it's not too, we don't need the kick drum bleeding in. Perfectly fine. Okay, the mono overhead, we can keep mono overheads themselves. The mono overhead has some low roll-off, so there's not too much bottom end bleed. These overheads, the same thing, so it's just an identical overheads. Now the rooms, let's have a look what they've done with the rooms here. The rooms, yeah, some mid-range cut here, so it's not too harsh, because that's where the cymbals can get a little splashy, and then some of the bottom end rolled off. I do that all the time with rooms, because if you got too much bottom end bleeding in, it will sound horrific. But let's have a listen to those rooms. Take their EQ off. There's a mono overhead there. So, just listening to that section there. Nice drum kit sound, but For me, I love the drum sound. I do. I think it sounds fantastic. I personally would add some verb to the snare. So let's do that. So underneath my snare sub here, I'm going to create a stereo. I would do two things. I would add a stereo reverb just for the snare. So let's put it out. I'm going to put it out on my console, the same place I'm putting the rooms, so it just blends. So whatever I wanted to do with the rooms would be the same. So I'll call this snare verb. I think the room is not massive, but not small. So let's give it, you know what? We're going to go to the most generic reverb, the deverb. We're going to go to a medium room, 750 milliseconds. We're going to take the input as being, let's say 5 and 6. And we're going to take snare top, which I think is probably the most accurate. Well, you know what? That's not true. I'm going to take the snare sub because it's already will have some compression done to it. Cool. So we're going to use the snare sub because it's already obviously been, you know, we've taken out some of the kick. So it's going to be a little cleaner. So I'm going to send the whole snare sound to it. I don't always do that. I learned from Andy Wallace years ago, if you use the snare sample and use that to trigger the reverb, you'll get a cleaner one. But we're not doing samples on this. This is about subtle mix tricks, not the overly EQ'd, over-compressed stuff that people do. This is the subtle thing, keeping the integrity of what Matt recorded and the way he did it. Because that's a whole different thing altogether. And this is like some of the most basic stuff here. So now what I'm doing is I'm setting from 5 to 6 from the snare sub. Here we go. Huge difference. Immediately fits with the room. Take it off. It sounds, to me, honestly, it sounds like the same drum room, just a better drum sound. Listen. Immediately great. Now another thing we can do, which I do a lot, is have a listen to our drum room. Sounds pretty good, all right? Let's be honest, let's try this. So I'm gonna take the deverb and I'm gonna duplicate it and put it on the room. Yes, I'm putting reverb on rooms. That's what happened. Okay, so it's too much. So what do? Take our mix control. A little cymbally, isn't it? It's a little cymbally. So what are we going to do? Before the deverb, he turned down the EQ, the guy that was helping Matt, or Matt did it, sorry. Okay, so here I've got the most basic de-esser. Okay. No, it's not working for me. Sometimes the cymbals and the hi-hats and stuff are too loud. That's just killing the snare, so we don't want that. Next trick. Okay, what's the next trick? Saturation. So I'm showing you both. Sometimes when it's all just, it's too splashy, put a de-esser on there, gets rid of all the splashiness, keeps the body of the snare. This is just making our snare sound dull, so it's not working there. And it's not that big of an issue. This isn't the worst. I could keep it as it is. But I want this to be great, and I want to teach you some stuff. So let's go to harmonic here. Nope. Sound field. Nope. It's going to be under other. Where is it? Here it is. Under harmonic in Pro Tools. Lo-fi. So this is the most basic saturation. So what I love about this, the thing about saturation a lot of the time, depending on which kind of distortion and saturation plugin you use, is it catches the high end first. So if anything is splashy, it's adding a lot of gain to the signal as well. Go to some cymbals. So the cymbals have come up a little bit in volume, but the snare's jumped up dramatically. This is the snare relationship with the cymbals. Cymbals, quiet snare. Snares come up dramatically, cymbals slightly. So a little saturation goes a long way. I'm going to end up bringing it down just a little bit. Now I'm going to go to my deverb. Turn the whole thing up a little bit. So for me, these are very, very subtle things. But when I'm mixing drums, and pre-thinking about even the idea of putting on samples and stuff, I've immediately got a much better drum sound just by doing stuff like this.
On the floor before you know what it's don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other.
Cool. So very, very simple stuff there. Let's just finish up our toms here. Like so. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of cleanup, just a bit more, just so we can play with it a bit more. I don't want you to just have to only hear the first like 6 bars or 8 bars or whatever it is. So here it is. Okay, so listen to that fill.
Pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say.
Very, very tempted to bring up. This is what happens to me a lot, is like, as soon as you bring in music, the verbs and stuff like that start to get soaked up. So where I liked the drum sound without, without the track in it, as soon as I put the track in it, it gets soaked up a little bit. So you could do a couple of things. Often I'll do a little compression going in, but I might also exaggerate the transients a little bit, which means, well, how would I do that? Let's go back and get our generic compressor, which is our comp limiter here. And what I'm going to do,
Pack a punch like no other. Here's a caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout. Who I wanna be, no apology.
kind of nice. So, you know, we're in that position here where peaking a little bit. Take it off. So it's done one of two things. It's obviously given us more level going to the reverb, making the reverb louder. Obviously, we could turn that up. but it's also just compressing the snare a little bit more aggressively, you know, before going into the reverb, allowing a little bit of attack to come through. You could get crazy. One of the crazy things we could do, if you have it, let's just do the snare for a second. We'll bring the reverb down here. We'll just bypass the compressor for a second. Another thing you could do, quick look. Here's our transient designer, our SPL transient designer. So we can just take a section here. And we can do this. And do this. So what I've done is I've shortened the snare sound going to the reverb. So it's just triggering off the as opposed to boof, boof. It's shortening the sustain and increasing the attack going into the reverb. So I could do the opposite if I wanted to. I could do this. See how you can shape your reverb dramatically? And to be honest, it's an easy way. If you have a transient designer or you have a way of shaping it like that, it's amazing how much more you can do to get your drum sound great. Without it. Kind of like that. I think the transient designer is my favorite option there. Again, I'm showing you different ways of doing it, but for me, that's kind of a nice option. You can also use the transient designer. Yes, you guessed it, on your snare sub after your little trick here. So we can move this. Well, let's do this because it's a mono one. We can come over here. Here's our SPL transient designer, and we could do the same thing on a snare track. Take the reverb off. It's in the snare. I mean, we could go crazy. We could do all kinds of nuts things like that. You can really shape your snare, so.
Before you know what it's don't judge by my size more than meets the eye.
To be honest, as cool, I preferred it without doing that. I like the initial stuff we were doing. But again, you can see the advantage of being able to tame your transients. A lot of things you can do before you even start thinking about using drum samples.
Seen it coming, but I get to running on the floor before you.
Cool. So hopefully that gave you some cool ideas on drum mixing. For me, on a track like this, I would also bus all of these to a stereo and maybe try some parallel things just for some energy tracks. I mean, there's a lot of different fun things you can do that will add energy. Like, you know, taking my snare sub, if I also wanted to, you know, group my kick, I could do just a parallel of just the kick and snare. I know that lots of guys I work with do that. So let's just create that for a second. We'll go to a bus on 7 here, create a mono auxiliary, make that output 1, so it's still going to the same place. Solo safe it, make it bus 7, and then we have kick sub. Now what we could do, we're not doing any EQ, not doing any compression, anything clever to that, but what we could do is we could go and send out here. So let's make it, I don't know, bus 9. Well, you know what? We're going to make it a stereo one because we may want to create a stereo drum sub. And then we'll do the same thing here on my snare sub. And now what I'm going to do, underneath the snare sub, for instance, I'm going to create a stereo auxiliary. I'm going to send that to my rooms, which are 7 and 8. I'm going to call this kick, snare, parallel. And I'm just going to do, what can I do? I'm going to annihilate these a bit. I'm not going to add more attack in. I can do that with Transient Designer. I'm going to do something, well, we could use the MV2 for those of you who are familiar with this. It will destroy it. It's kind of a fun plugin. So let's make that 9 and 10. So kick and snare. Now obviously you hear the snare getting louder as a result. Same with the kick. Cool, what about this? So that's pretty insane. That's probably completely over the top. But I don't want it to just be a volume thing. I want it to be an energy thing. For instance, make these pre-fade. And do this. So I've made those pre-fade. My mistake. Wasn't thinking. So those are pre-fade, and we're going to just mute the subs. It's cool for energy, but I'm not in love with it. We could do something like an R comp here. To just be about volume. Quite often what I'll do is I'll annihilate it. That's interesting because the way the attack is set up on this one, for instance, is bringing a lot of attack. Without it, with it. So that's kind of cool. I like the R comp for that because of the way the attack and release is set up. But if I went to a more traditional or fun one, like a traditional LEM 76, I mean, that's the most generic free comes with Pro Tools plugin. And listen to how good that is. That just sounds like a dirty rock and roll drum kit. So I've got the attack all the way to the left. I mean, pretty special. Release on its fastest, which is to the right. Listen to that. I mean, that's the classic way I was told to use a compressor, using LEM 76. Attack far left, release far right. You could always do that. Pretty awesome. Let's have a look. Where's the all buttons in? That's really good. The pump settings probably similar to what we just did. Nah. So basically, oh, there's a setting I use for snare parallel. Let's see what that sounds like. No. Better the way I just made it up. So look, total energy track. take it off. Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds like a good, clean drum kit. I like that. Now listen. Off. On. So that parallel trick is really, really freaking awesome. I mean, it just adds energy to the drum kit, and honestly, it makes me feel like I'm in the room with the kit. So for me, that's like those are the tricks that I would do first before doing anything else, deciding whether to put samples on or whatever. Just make my live drums feel good. Go to that crazy fill. Great. So there you go. Parallel, compressing, sidechain compression to remove unwanted kicks or snares out of their opposite tract. So where we have too much snare bleed on one mic, we sidechained it for that. And on the kick drum, just to generically move the snare bleed out of the kick side thing, we sidechanged it in. Now, you have to be careful. Sometimes if it's playing 4 on the floor, you can't do that because the kick will sidechain to the snare. So when they're playing together, they will take each other out. One more thing that you might want to do is sometimes, let's have a listen. Let's go to the overheads. It's a nice, accurate kick. What about if I did this? That won't let me do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the stereo overheads, not the mono. You know what? This is what we're going to do. So I love this, just making it up as we go, just basically giving you all of the different tricks that I do. We go to 11 and 12, create stereo, auxiliary. Make that obviously 11 and 12. So we're just creating subgroups, auxiliary groups. And we go 11 and 12 here. I'm going to call this overheads. So now I'm busting them together. I'm going to take a dynamic. We're just going to go back to our generic compressor limiter, like so. And I'm not going to sidechain it. Nope, I'm not going to sidechain it. I'm just going to compress. You know what? It's going to press the snare. See what it's doing to the snare? It's giving the snare a little bit of spank, but it's not touching the cymbals. Pretty tasty, isn't it? Let's have a listen. But I get to running on the floor before you know it's don't judge by my size, more than meets the eye. My words can pack a punch like no other. Here's the caution, got something to say. Ain't out for purposes of display. Can you hear me? Come and clearly speak. You gotta shout who I wanna be. Cool. So there you go. Some basic tricks. I might put a little bit more bottom end on the kick there. It's possible I'd get into samples if I was mixing all of the tracks together, but I wanted to get the best live kit. The one thing I'm missing on this is some sub on the kick. So what I might do is like trigger some additional low end, but it's really good. And don't forget, I could go to my kick sub there, you know, and do an extra additional EQ on that as well. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. That's my experience of opening up this session in the same way that you will do, and just my first guttural reaction of how to make those drums sound better. For me, it's like, I like the EQ choices that they made when they were recording it, and that's great. It's always nice to have somebody kind of start you off, so you'll have that as well. We'll give you screenshots of every single one of these. So like kick in here. Here is the kick out. That's the beta head. It's the same as the kick out. Snare top, that's the EQ he did. The SM81 EQ. Snare bottom EQ. This is the compression limiting that I did on the snare sub. Here's the parallel EQ that I did on the kick and snare. Transient designer for the snare verb. Here's the actual snare verb setting I used. Mix on 100%. Here's the tom EQ that they did, that I've kept for all three. Hi-hat EQ that they did, taking out some of the harshness at 3 to 5K, boosting some of the high end, rolling off some of the lows. Mono overhead and stereo overhead are the same, and they're just rolling off some of the low lows. Here's the compressor that I used. And then the room trick is EQ, which they had already done, taking out some of the harshness in the mids, taking out some of the low rumble, then a little bit of lo-fi, distorting it, saturating it, just to get rid of some of the high distortion, the high cymbals. So they just started to overdrive, going into the reverb. And then that's their room EQ on the mono room. So there you go, here it is. Cool. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun doing this. Matt is a great drummer. There's a lot of different drum parts you can experiment with there. You can get into his process of what he was doing, and you see a little bit of my process when I'm mixing drums, especially drums I didn't record. And, you know, I have to think a little bit outside of the box and not just do generic things. I have to listen to the drums and make those choices. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that little mix breakdown of the drums.